So I've got the GM throttle body codes that a lot of people replace the throttle body or the pigtail. There is a service bulletin that states replace the pigtail. Fixes most of the problems, but I've been seeing all over the internet and stuff, people replacing throttle body, the pigtail, they replace the accelerator pedal, they replace the throttle actuated control module, they replace all these things and they still have the problem. Well, I got one right here. I didn't replace anything, but I went through diagnosing it and I found the problem that none of those would have fixed. So I want to show you guys what I found here. All right, so the first thing I did was had a check engine light, scan for codes. Codes I got was P0120, P1516, and 2135. So before I even start diagnosing anything, I always go through and make sure see if there's any service bulletins. And I found this one, PIP 3089B. If you want to look it up, that's the number for it. But basically what it states is the pigtail, check the pigtail going to the throttle body. And it also has you check the ground wires. There's a few ground wires that it shows for you to check. One of them, this one here, this one right here, is on the driver's side, right at the back of the head. And I'm going to show you all these in just a minute. But it's right at the back of the head, and it goes up to the firewall. And then you have some on the passenger side, towards the back of the head. And basically, one thing you're going to want to do that's kind of an easy way to check it without getting too in depth is start the vehicle, make sure it's not in the power reduced mode, and just start wiggle testing this stuff. You can go to the throttle body and start wiggle testing the wire as far back as you can. And if you start wiggling a certain area and it enters power reduced mode and throws them codes immediately, then you should reset them, start it back up, make sure it's not in reduced mode, and just do it again. And that, then you'd be verified that that's your concern. But a lot of times it is the pigtail or the ground wires. But if those are good, then you're going to have to start diagnosing other things. You can wiggle test other spots, and that's actually how I found it. I'll show you in just a minute. All right, so I just want to give you a brief overview of how this thing works. So pull up the wiring diagram. This top box here is the throttle actuator control module. This bottom box is going to be your throttle body. Now you have two sensors in there that sense the position of the throttle body. The motor is going to be what activates the actual throttle plate inside the throttle body. So if you follow this, there's two sensors here. You got a 5-volt reference that comes from your throttle from the control module. So it goes to the throttle body. Then on this side, low reference, that's going to be basically your ground. And then you have this right here, which is a potentiometer. As your throttle plate moves, this is going to change resistance values. So you're going to get that 5 volts coming in, and then as your throttle plate moves, it'll let more or less voltage back up to the module. It's going to compare the reference coming back to it, and it's going to compare it to each other. If they're different references, if they're seeing different voltages coming back to it, it's going to set that code, and it's going to put it in a reduced power mode. And so what we're going to have to do is find out what's dropping out, whether it's the throttle body, whether it's these potentiometers inside the throttle body, or if it's a wiring issue from the module to the throttle body, or if it's the module itself. So there's a few ways that we can do this. You can use a scan tool and a multimeter, oscilloscope. You can do it several ways. But an easy way that most of you can do it without having a bunch of equipment, you just need a multimeter, and I'm going to show you how to do it that way. All right, to just show you where everything's located, this is your throttle body. This is the pigtail that the service bulletin says to replace. Those wires inside break. You won't be able to see it, but you'll be able to start, like I said, start it up, let it run. When it's not in reduced mode, start wiggling that wire all the way back everywhere you can. If it drops out, that's your problem. This is the ground that goes from the firewall to that back driver's side head. And then this one over here is going to be hard to see, but there's a ground back there behind the head. There is a few other grounds that you could check. But then you have your TAC module, that's throttle actuation control module. Some people even replace that and still don't fix the problem. So what we can do, wiggle test all that, everything like that, and see if you still can't get it to do it and that's not your problem. Then what we're going to do is we're going to back probe. You can back probe into the 5-volt reference at your throttle body, the signal return, do both sensors, and then when it does happen to drop out, which this customer was driving, you know, just a couple miles, every mile or two, it would start doing it. So, you know, when that happens, you can back probe into these. That's going to be right here at your throttle body, and you can hook a multimeter to it. And when it drops out, you're going to see whether it drops out the 5-volt reference or the return. If it drops out the return, it's going to be in your throttle body. If the 5-volt reference drops out, it's going to be from your throttle body to the module. So I got lucky, and you know, I hooked up, back probed into there, hooked up my meter to it, and seen the 5-volt reference, and I started wiggle testing that gray wire right there, right where it connects to the module, and my 5-volt was just dropping off. It was causing the throttle body, you could hear it clicking, moving and everything. And as soon as I did that, while it was running, it went into reduced power mode. I did it multiple times, and you know, found that was the problem. So what I ended up doing was I unplugged it, looked in it, everything, there was no corrosion or nothing, but I cleaned it out with electrical cleaner, put dielectric grease back in, plugged it in, and the problem's gone. I drove this thing 5 or 6 miles and did not have the problem come back. I'm gonna drive it again, but there's, you know, oftentimes pin fit issues, and we did check it with that. You get the proper pin, and you're gonna push it into the connector and see if there was about 5 of them that were loose, that this thing would just go in and fall right out. But obviously, if you're not going to have those, then we're going to order a pigtail, and then I would solder those in since it's going to a module. But that's going to be the fix. But it doesn't mean that the pigtail's always the problem. It could be the module too at the pins. So if you're wiggle testing that and you splice in that pigtail and it doesn't fix it, then you're going to replace that module.